What's going on, everybody? Episode 186 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table while we talk about the outdoors. This week, you're going to notice that it's just me and White in studio. Tom is doing some last-minute prepping for his wedding, so by the time you guys are all listening, he's going to be a married man. So hopefully he sticks around. We're sure he will. Anyways, this week, Frank and I are sitting down. We're talking about trail cameras, trail camera tactics, how we're placing our cameras throughout the property to try and hone in on a specific deer. Frank is that exact scenario. He's after a specific deer, third or fourth year in a row. We'll talk about it on the podcast. He'll nail it down. But I'm going to quit rambling. Let's get tuned into this week's episode.
I pull up my bow, and then I look dead at his antlers. I got out of the truck, and when I slammed the door, I heard gobbles all around me.
Let's see it.
Alaska, moose, spot and stalk. That is the bucket list. I agree.
White Cat Outdoors. White Cat Outdoors.
What's up, everybody? Before we get into this episode, by the time you're listening to this, Tom is going to be a married man.
Yep. So he's leaving the podcast, leaving the brand. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, he's not going anywhere, but he's not in the studio with us tonight. But I figured I would just say congratulations to Tom because he just got married yesterday. We're very proud of him. He married a great gal, and we love him.
Yeah. If you hear any humming in the background, that's Tom. He's cutting grass right now. That's why he's not in, because this week's been jam-packed getting, final prep done for the wedding. But it's all good stuff. Tom's about out of sick days on the podcast.
He is. He is about out. Now that he's married, he's probably going to be using them all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he lives here, so
Hey, you never know with that guy.
just got to get an hour once a week. But yeah, aside from that, this week, Frank, I wanted to talk about trail cameras and trail camera placement.
Now's the time to
Yeah.
get them out.
Yeah, I know some people run them year-round, and some people like to get them out a lot earlier than now. But when it comes to paying monthly fees for cell cams and batteries and all that stuff, I just don't really care enough to get pictures of bucks that are,
Shed.
like freshly shed or like just grown, 6 inches of spike. Just doesn't really get me going, doesn't really help me. I can get all of that information now, into August. By now you can start to see potential in a buck.
Oh, no doubt. You can definitely see what they're gonna.
Yeah,
see.
they're not at
They
their
have plenty of
full
growing
size.
to do, but you can tell what they're about.
Yeah, exactly. So, we got a buck on camera. Say he's 19 inches wide already, but he's only got 4 or 5 inch G2s. Like that he's still got time to grow and he's gonna get bigger. So you can see that potential.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely see their frame. I would say they're by now you have their frame.
They're not gonna get much wider than they are.
Yeah, their main beams are usually about where they're gonna be. Their mass is about where it's gonna be. They'll just get some tine length, and they'll get a little bit of everything else. But
Yeah.
I think you get more of that noticeable growth in their tine length now.
Yeah.
Once they have that full frame out there.
Yep, I agree. And it seems like at this point, any points that are going to grow are already there or established, starting to come up.
Yeah.
I got a picture of a 9 the other day. It's 2-inch G4 on the one side, and then it's just smooth on the other side. So I'm not expecting that to turn into a 10 at this point.
Yeah.
But like I said, so we just got most of our cameras out, so just wanted to discuss kind of where we put cameras and why. The big one for me is obviously food plots. I put a lot of cameras on food plots just because it's an easy way to get an inventory of what's on the property. It seems like this time of year, most deer, we've got, just for the headquarters, Got 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 food plots
Yeah.
on 100 acres. If you put a camera on every single one of those, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to catch, I would say, 90 to 99% of the bucks that are on that property at that time
Yeah.
in at least one of those food plots.
Yeah.
They've got to eat, so you're probably going to get a glimpse of something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you're going to get them on all the cameras.
Yeah.
Probably won't. And another reason I really like putting them on food plots is because it's easy to check, and not,
You're not
very
invasive at
yeah.
all.
Yeah, you can just buzz right through there. A lot of them that are in the field, we can just drive the truck around, pretty much just hop out, grab a card, switch cards, gone. What about you?
Usually I'm pretty much the same way on most of the pieces that I hunt, but I've talked about it before. I've been after one particular buck the past 3 years, and to my knowledge, he hasn't been killed. I haven't seen him yet this year, gotten pictures of him, but I just got cameras out. Dad and I just put him out 2 weeks ago. We haven't checked him yet. But that buck always is on our property before the season, and usually after the first week and a half, 2 weeks of the season, he's gone. So for that particular piece, I am not in the inventory mode. I'm in the mode of finding what he is doing. I want to know where he's at, how he's moving, because I have a very, very limited time to kill him before he moves. And he's done it the past 3 years. The first week and a half, 2 weeks of the season, he's gone 2 miles away. And I know another guy that has pictures of him, in the rut, and that's where he goes after the bachelor groups break up and the rut activity starts. And when he wants to be on his own and with those, he's far away from where I can hunt him. So for that piece, I have been focused on that particular deer and trying to figure out how I can kill him in that very minimal time that I have.
Gotcha.
So everything I have has been focused closer to bedding. And that, that piece that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
It got logged a couple years ago, so it's an absolute mess in there. There's one main logging road that goes through everything, and I have a couple cameras scattered up that logging road, and that piece is a little over 200 acres, and that logging road kind of snakes through it, so it's a long road that zigzags through.
Do you get a lot of trails that are breaking across the logging road, or does it seem like the deer are actually like traveling down the logging road?
Both, quite a bit
Okay.
of both. It seems like they use that to get down closer to, there's a big bean field out in the front.
Yep.
So they use that to kind of funnel that into that logging road and then down to the bean field. Except there's the one side of the property it doesn't really get close to, so they don't come from that way to get to it. They just kind of work through everything, all the tops, to get to the beans on that side of the property. But where it snakes up through the other 3/4 of the property, it seems like they kind of funnel to that logging road and then down.
Gotcha.
But there's not like one hard trail or several hard trails. There's a lot of you can tell a deer walked there a couple times, or a few deer.
That makes
walked
it
there.
really tough to narrow down.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been kind of tough. I do have one mineral site there that is pretty buried in the property, and I have a cell camera on that, so I don't have to go near it. And I've never had him in that area of the property, so I don't think I'm going to have him there now.
Gotcha.
But the other places that I have had him in previous years, I have cameras now, and hopefully I can catch him moving through there and figure out a little bit more what he's doing this year. And every year I get multiple pictures of him and multiple daylight pictures of him, but I just haven't been able. I've never actually seen him on the hoof in the woods, so it's all trail camera stuff.
You've seen him just like out in the open before season before too.
Yes, but I've never seen him when I was in the woods.
Yeah.
But I do have all kinds of daylight pictures of him in velvet and hardhorn, and a lot of nighttime pictures during season, but he just disappears shortly after the season starts. So
He could be a slob this year.
yeah, because he was well over 20 wide. I bet he was 22 wide last year.
Yeah.
And he's really cool because how he is like tipped back. Like
Yes.
when he's looking straight down, his antlers look normal, and when he picks his head up, they're pointing
Everything-
backwards.
Yeah, it's a really cool buck.
Yeah, so all my efforts on that property with my trail cameras are focused around that particular deer. I don't
Gotcha.
really care about anything else because that's my one target buck. I'm sure there will be other nice bucks wandering through and that I will get on camera,
Yeah.
but my focus is on that specific deer. So I've definitely changed how I normally do my early season camera sets because of that deer. Normally I'm more like you, but this
Yeah.
year I've definitely tried to hone in on specific things that normally I wouldn't because like we've all talked about before, what's going on right now is not going to be happening in mid-October, late October, November. It's
Yeah.
going to be totally different, but just the nature of that deer has made me change my tactics to try to see different things right now because I haven't done that in years past. Years past, I've just been inventory type sets.
Yep.
And now I'm trying to hone in closer on where I've had them before and then kind of branching off of those couple of spots to see how he's getting to and from those spots that I've had him in the past and why he might be going there, how I might be able to get in and kill him.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the use of cell cams for the deeper spot because that's something I started last year. Is years prior, 100% was either on food plots or a mineral site, but it was always on the outskirts of property, so it was easy to check. But I've had quite a bit of every archery deer I've ever killed was October. I've never killed a November deer, so and most of them are within the first week. So finding what they're doing now can be really helpful for that first week of October.
Yeah.
So last year, invested in some cell cameras, and I'm starting to put them in places that I think would be a good spot to hunt, and almost using it as and you can only see so much from a camera.
Yeah.
But I look at it as almost like a mock hunt, if a cell cam's sitting there, I face it, where I think the deer are going to be coming from, and I can kind of start to see how deer are using that piece or that little area. And we'll see. Last year there was, or I guess 2 years ago, I had 3 run-ins with a really nice buck. And last year I never once got a picture of him. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got killed. We've had issues with poaching out there, so I hate to think that that's what happened, but it's a possibility out there.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, where that deer was crossing through, I've got a cell camera down in there, and it seems like cell cameras are your best option for places that you really shouldn't be in every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Checking. If I got to hike a couple 100 yards off the road into timber, into bedding and stuff, I don't want to do that. I want to leave that camera in there, and you put a camera out now, that camera's batteries are going to last you all the way into where you don't need that camera in there anymore.
Especially like Tacticams, they have the solar panels you can hook to them that extend the battery life way longer.
My Tacticams lasted, I think, all season last year. I think one of them died in November, and it was mainly because a branch had busted most of the way, and it was just swaying in front of it.
Yeah.
Tell you what, that gets annoying, getting the notifications on your phone every 3 minutes of a branch moving.
Yeah.
But is what it is. Cameras, I've never killed a buck that I can say cameras helped me.
No, me neither.
But it's still, what it does for me is shows me a good idea of what's in the area and gives me something to look forward to.
Yeah. And having a target buck definitely helps you, especially around here. There's so many 2.5-year-old 8s that are nice deer that a lot of people want to shoot. But if you have a picture of, a 140, 150, you're going to look at that 110-inch buck or 115-inch buck and be like, I'm probably not going to shoot you. And then he gets another year solely because you have a picture.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like me this year, I'm really going to try to hold out for 125-inch deer. I want to get a net Pope and Young deer. But what cameras can do too is if all summer in October and everything, the biggest deer I have on the property is 120. There's not a whole lot to wait out for. I've got certain properties that I hunt that I know can produce a deer of that caliber. And I have other properties that just aren't quite there yet. You might catch one during the rut, but for the headquarters sake, if you get a 115-inch deer in front of you, that's
odds are that's the biggest deer we're gonna have on the farm.
Yes, I think
frequenting the area.
I think Tom's got the biggest buck in camp right now, and it's 114, 118 somewhere. Like
I think it was like 117 or something. It was close to 118.
Yeah, it's just shy of the 120 mark, and that's the biggest deer that's ever been killed there. Yeah. Now we've had pictures of deer that were slightly bigger than that. I think we had
had one that was close to 130 I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, and like in the late season in the snow. I remember he was like almost up to his belly in snow.
Yeah.
So they're running around. They can be there, but I use cameras a lot to kind of give me a baseline of what to look for.
Keep yourself in check and know
how
to hunt the property, or if you even want to hunt the property.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I've got access to several pieces that, if I put a couple cameras out there and I'm only seeing 105, 110-inch deer, I'm spotting at night and I'm only seeing that caliber of deer, okay, probably not going to spend a whole lot of time there.
Yeah, you're going to go to one of your other spots and hone in on something else there, because it's not hard to find one bigger than that. With the amount of property that we hunt, we can find better deer.
I've got a 300-acre piece of property that I can hunt that I scout every single year. I usually throw 2 hunts at it based on and the reason I don't hunt more than that on there is because my cameras don't really produce there. It looks great. Like on scouting, it looks like there's a ton of sign. Looks good. I've spotted deer at night in there, but I just don't get daytime pictures of big deer. The other problem is I have access to it, and so does everybody else that asks this particular landowner.
Yeah.
So multiple times I've been on stand, and I don't leave any stands on the property. So any stand I hunt's first time in there. One day I was sitting, there's a real tight pinch between a cow pasture and a cornfield, and then there's a small little trail that comes through loaded with deer tracks. So I set up so I could shoot that bottleneck, that little pinch point there, and about 45 minutes before dark I had a white pickup come barreling down through the field, parked 70 yards off the edge of the woods, and then walked to a ground blind. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? I'm like, 45 minutes later, like I had 3 doe like just tucked around the corner I was watching when he came down through. They blew out. I'm like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
It's just, something you got to deal with.
Makes you wonder what the hell people are thinking. Like, you're in prime time. It's 45 minutes of light left. And
maybe he just got out of work and that's all he's got.
Yeah, I understand, like, getting in the woods as much as possible, but, like, if you're going to go driving through the field and then park
that's the
right
other
next
thing.
to your fucking ground blind.
Like you say, for some people, his truck was within bow range, or crossbow range.
Yeah.
Definitely within rifle range. I was like, what is going on? So that's one of them things where my time is very valuable to me. And that's not the first time I've had a hunt blown up there. So I am very selective of when I climb there. It's usually a midweek hunt because
usually there's not other people there.
Yeah. I can't say I'll never, but there's a very small chance that you're going to see me there on a weekend just because it's just loaded with people. When I scout in the spring, pretty much every buck rub on the edge of a field has a ladder stand within bow range.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. I mean, I'm talking every 60 yards down the edge of this property. I'm like, what?
What are we doing here?
I don't know if they're all the same guy. I don't know if it's a half a dozen guys. I don't know. I've seen multiple trucks pull in there at different times when I'm hunting.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, nobody's ever spotted me. I'm usually tucked in.
Stealth mode.
That's a property I exclusively use my saddle on because I never know where I'm going to end up.
Yeah.
And I like to, especially with other people hunting, I think it's easier for me to conceal myself from people with a saddle because it's easy to just kind of spin around the tree. And there's not that conventional shape of a lock on in the skyline.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. I just don't like to let other people know where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a long tangent off of trail cameras, but yeah, it's the season. Or I mean, we're halfway through July. We have
It's crazy how
so we have
fast
like
the
half of
season's coming
July,
up.
August, September. We're talking.
It seems like turkey season literally just ended.
yeah.
And we're several months removed.
Yeah, we're looking at like 2.5 months to opening day.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers. So it's going to sneak up on us fast. So if you guys haven't got your trail cameras out, now's the time to do it. But
Yeah, no doubt. One more thing I wanted to touch on with like how I'm trying to hone in on that particular buck.
yeah, tell me more.
I will. I'm gonna tell you. It almost feels counterproductive, but with one camera in a spot, you don't see everything you need to see. So I have the one spot. I have 3 cameras within 30 yards of each other. I have a small circle where I've had that buck before, and I have a camera where I've had him before, and then I go a little bit one way, a little bit another way, and kind of look at.
Facing out or
I just look at different, like if there's a trail or something.
okay.
I'll look at the trail, or I will leave it at that same spot, like, and just tweak it a little bit to look at different angle to catch like what direction he's coming from, going to.
I don't think that's
So-
counterproductive at all.
I know it's not, but just
It feels like
looking
you're
at
using
it,
a ton of resources in one spot, but if you're honing in on one animal,
yeah,
you got to do what you got to do.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, from like a viewing perspective, you're like, why would I have camera? Like I'm standing in one spot and I can see 3, but knowing what I'm trying to accomplish, it's like, okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what I was getting at with that is, don't be afraid to load up a spot with cameras.
Yeah.
If you're trying to figure out a spot or a deer, you don't have to spread your cameras across the whole property to figure out this deer out, or
Yeah.
figure this deer out.
Well, and Scott Thompson, who we've had on a few times, talks about how he throws a large casting net per se at the beginning, early season, or like preseason, like we are now.
Yeah.
And then as he gets closer to the deer he wants, he just starts like basically drawing that net in and just moving all of his cameras into one area.
Yeah.
Scott's known he'll put half a dozen cameras on a half-acre food plot.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he will absolutely load it up because he said you wouldn't believe how many bucks you get on one of those 6 cameras.
Yeah. Like on a half acre. You know, it's got a couple 100 yards of shoreline, if you will, woodline.
Yeah, he said it's
And-
unbelievable
Yeah.
how many will literally just skirt one corner of it, eat their stuff, and head on
Yeah,
out.
and you'll never see them on any of those other cameras, even though they're within 50 yards.
Yeah.
So honing in like that and having a lot of cameras in one area can give you a lot of intel that you would otherwise be missing, because you think, okay, I got a camera here, I'm covered.
Yep.
You're not covered, or you might not be covered. If you put a couple other cameras there, odds are you're going to get a lot more information than what you would have got otherwise. So I have a couple setups like that right now to hopefully ease that curb of narrowing that casting net. I want to hone in on those spots because I know I've had them there before. And the older deer get, the more they go to what they know. They shrink their home range.
It's worked this long. A deer this year approaching a 4-year-old, or could be a 5-year-old, depending on
Yeah.
when you first saw him. A deer does not get to that age class in this area very often.
No.
So if it's working for him, he's
He's
probably
going to
keep doing it.
Yeah. So I expect to see that deer in those same few areas again, and adding another piece to the puzzle.
Are you? So you have like a couple different spots on the property you're seeing him. Do you have any cameras in between?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
that
like,
was another thing to try and give you a better hunting opportunity, because maybe that spot where you're seeing him isn't great for a setup, but if you can connect the dots between I have him on this camera at 3:15 and then he's on this camera at 4 o'clock, try and find that
Yeah,
where he's at for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and I do that a lot. I have one setup that has 3 cameras at it, and then I have one in the middle, and then I have another setup with 2 cameras at it that I've had them at, the 2 end spots, but I've never seen him in the middle, but it looks like a pretty good spot for him to get from A to B.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to try to find the spot, that intercept spot. Whether or not I'm going to hunt there, I don't know. I know the one spot that I have 2 cameras. He has been in daylight several times, but I just haven't been there. He's been there during season, and I haven't been there. So
Almost like you should just take the first week of hunting season off.
I know, right?
I could do it for you if you want.
You could. You might be able to kill him, and I'd be happy for you. But I sure would like to kill him, especially with the recurve.
Yeah, it'd be nuts.
Yeah.
Be like one of your best deer with a recurve.
Depending what he was last year, he was right around. He was definitely 140. I wouldn't give him much more, but I wouldn't give him any less. So he wouldn't have been my biggest deer. He would have been close to my big 10.
He was more impressive on the wall for
Because
sure.
he's an 8.
Yeah.
So
an 8, 22 inches wide at 1 foot, like that's a giant.
yeah, he's a big deer, and he's only gonna be bigger this year. So if I can smoke him with the recurve, I will be losing my shit.
I would just snap that bow in half.
Right? Just take it right over the knee.
Yeah.
Done with it. Doesn't get any better than that.
It'd be awesome. Well, I'm hoping that happens for you.
Yeah.
And I hope it happens.
I hope it happens.
If anyone knows that reference, Tom would tell you to leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
Well, that about wraps it up here, unless you got anything else.
Nope, that's about it. That's all I have to say on that.
So if you guys have any different things you guys do with your cameras, love to hear about it. So head on over to our Instagram page, White Cat Outdoors Podcast. Comment on it, some posts, tell us what you guys are seeing, what you're doing with your trail cameras. We love to hear that kind of stuff. But other than that, you guys all know what to do. Get outside.